Tonight, who is Ezra Cohen Watnick? And were Google and Facebook just DARPA's mass surveillance projects? Plus, what is the significance of this song you are hearing? Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to Just Informed Talk. For those of you who don't know, every episode starts the same way. I'm truly grateful to each and every one of you who have hit that subscribe button. We always have new subscribers. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, now's a great time to do it. Come here, click the subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications to be notified when these videos get posted. So here you go. We're going to start off right here with the latest Q post. As always, if you want to get caught up, these are the last few posts. I encourage you to go back here to the main landing page, watch these last few videos. It'll get you caught up to where we're at now. There's a lot of information in there. Plus, if you're scratching your head going, what's QAnon? Please come here, click this video, and share it with friends because there's a lot of great information there if you want to figure out what QAnon is and how to get involved, how to find the information. So this is where we left off. Here's where we're starting. So the latest post from Q says Ezra Cohen Watnick, and that's it. It says Q. Then the next post is Q saying, responding to his own post here, saying bridges connecting people, and it gives this New York Times article. Now, what does this New York Times article talk about? Well, it talks about the aide that was ousted from the White House reemerges at the Justice Department. Now, who is that aide? That aide is none other than Ezra Cohen Watnick. Now, who is Ezra Cohen Watnick? Well, he's a intelligence officer who's been around for quite some time, going all the way back to 2013 and before, when he was allegedly training on the farm. And this is all out of a reported out of the Atlantic article about Ezra Cohen Watnick and his background. But basically, he's been an intelligence officer, and he was actually appointed to the Trump administration's National Security Council by Michael Flynn in the earliest parts of President Trump's presidency. Now, he has basically been involved with a lot of different things. They say that he trained at the farm, so he was obviously working with the CIA. They looked at him as being a surrogate of the Michael Flynn crackdown from the DNI, Department of Naval or Department of National Intelligence, back in 2014 when General Flynn was actually removed from his position after he started to crack down on some of the stuff he saw as being basically wrong, I would suspect. Now, this article points to the fact that he was actually let go by the President Trump's administration in the White House to go to the Department of Justice to become the national security advisor to none other than Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Okay, so this is really important to understand. There's not a lot of information out there unless you go read the Atlantic article, where it basically gives all this information about how he served in Afghanistan. But this is all, sources saying. So what would his role be? Well, if he was a protege of Michael Flynn, it would be reasonable to suspect that he is aware of all of the same things that Michael Flynn was aware of. And just as they've been playing this game with Jeff Sessions, the kabuki that is President Trump's feud with Jeff Sessions, in order to get the press to ease up and not attack Jeff Sessions and to actually side with Jeff Sessions somehow. I don't know how they got the mainstream media to do that, but they have. And it's all a part of a larger play. That's why we need to trust Sessions. Q said that multiple times. And you even saw the picture in the last video where it said soon, and it's Jeff peering over the shoulder of one of the congressmen in President Obama's office. So this is interesting. Obviously, if you want to read more about it, you can come over here to the New York Times and find this article, Aide Ousted from White House, Reemerges at Justice Department. If you can search Ezra Cohen Watnick, I'm sure it'll pop up. And that's the one that Q's telling us, is bridges connecting people. So my guess basically off the top is that he is a good actor working between President Trump's administration and Jeff Sessions now, and he's been kind of a go-between. He has a lot of the information, probably behind a lot of the intelligence that's being used to overthrow some of these deep state crazy actors out there. So that's something I thought was interesting. Now the next one here, this guy Ted Lieu just rubs me the wrong way. I don't trust him. I don't like him. I think he is one of the most suspicious individuals in Congress today, given the people who he endorses continually and the agenda that he pushes, and the fact that he's a never Trumper on the left, and he's obviously pushing with his little tweets here the FBI counterintelligence division. Well, who was the head of counterintelligence at the FBI? Oh, yeah, that's right. It's Peter Strzok, who hated the president, who set up a plan to basically frame the president in case he actually won the presidency, which he did. And then they used their little quote unquote insurance policy to spy on the president, to get any dirt they could so they could start basically prosecuting all the people that helped President Trump through his campaign in hopes that they would turn over and give dirt on the president himself so they could have him removed from office. That's exactly what happened. So, and this nutbag in California is actually promoting it, and I question his ties to several different things. I've questioned his ties to Michael Cohen and certain deals that were negotiated with Korean aerospace companies. That needs to be investigated further. And nobody's ever, brought that up. I don't see that running on the news, how him and President Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen, were working together to basically fast track with none other than, get this, Michael Avenatti. Not making this up. They all have a connection to this Korean aerospace deal that went through. So that's just one example of why I distrust Ted Lieu. But that being said, it says, "Dear agents of the FBI Counterintelligence Division, stand strong in your investigation of Trump and Russia. Our nation is relying on you." That sounds exactly like the tweet that we got from James Comey, where he basically says, yeah, Andrew McCabe needs to stand tall and proud. And you're like, Q gives us this breakdown of what the message was actually saying. So it was like, here's the tweet, and then here's what the tweet's actually saying. It's like, shut your mouth. We're going to come after you and your family. It's like, that's literally the kind of gangsterism that is apparently, according to Q, allegedly hidden within some of these tweets that are coming out from some of these top officials who act more like mob bosses than they do like upstanding citizens, which you would expect in these departments such as the FBI and the Department of Justice and the State Department. Instead, you have like this mob mentality, and it's just really, really rampant. But now Q gives us these few lines here, kind of a throwback to what we talked about before, right? Where it talks about Bill Priestap being the head of FBI counterintelligence, who was Strzok's boss. He was the cooperating witness, power removed. Peter Strzok, who's the deputy assistant director of counterintelligence, cooperating witness, was fired. So, I misspoke a little earlier, but yes, Bill Priestap is the head of counterintelligence, or was the head of counterintelligence, but Peter Strzok was the head of the counterintelligence investigations into President Trump and into Hillary Clinton's email service. He was the one who ran those investigations under Bill Priestap, obviously. So this to me is just, it's laying it out here. It's saying, look, Ted Lieu is telling them, stand tall, keep the lie up. We have to all hold together here, because if one of you goes down, it's going to expose all of us for being criminals. That's my opinion. Not saying that's fact, but that is just the way I see it and read it. So you guys can do with that as you may, obviously. And we're just going to go to the next one. So the next one is a CNBC article which talks about Facebook. Now, it talks about the 7 senior Facebook executives who have announced their departures this year. Q says nothing to see here. And it's got the metaphorical kill box over DARPA, right? The brackets, the bold brackets. So DARPA, there's been a few revelations from Q about DARPA and how they were connected to all this. First, the connection to Facebook is one that Q gave us a while ago. On the same day that DARPA's basically mass surveillance technology programming or program was, or initiative was canceled, was the same day that Facebook was started. And that's not a coincidence, because LifeLog, which was a very similar to Facebook in the way that it worked and functioned, was meant to be able to provide the government with more abilities to spy and collect information. And then it was adapted by, Zuckerberg probably and others to be this, social media. The advent of social media really was with Facebook. Some people could say MySpace, but I don't even know anybody who has a MySpace anymore. So Facebook is still around on the other hand. And that to me was the advent of this, I'm putting up air quotes, you guys can't see it, but social media. And social media ended up becoming the deep state's most sought after, coveted dream, was to be able to have these mass surveillance engines that they categorized the queries that you do in search and how groups come together. And we're going to read more about this with the Birds of a Feather initiative that was with Sergey Brin and Larry Page when they were at Stanford, and like how that all started, because that's what Q's giving us, the information. We're going to talk about it. But again, Q always wants us to look at people who are stepping down, people who are departing. Why are they departing? Oh, it says in the article they left on amicable terms, and yeah, there's nothing wrong here. It's totally cool. But it is very strange to have 7 senior executives step down all in the same year. And it could only lead one to believe that they're cleaning house because of certain executive orders that have been put into play by the President of the United States, which could hold companies accountable for executives who are involved in certain activities. So that being said, just like Officer Brady would say, move along, nothing to see here. So that is where we'll leave that. And then the next one is Q responding to his own post saying, Sergey Brin, founder, born in Moscow, was married to Ann Wojcicki, 23andMe founder, was brother-in-law to Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube. And then it says DARPA again in Q. So I've said this before. Q's brought this up before. It's very, very disconcerting when you think about the fact that you have the founder and head of one of the largest company in the world. Let's be honest. I think Google could probably fit that category. And then you have him marrying the founder of a DNA website. So think about it. The real dream that they've coveted for so long, and remember this, is to connect your DNA with your digital profile. Right? So then they can basically have everything about you. They can study your genetics, what you're predisposed to. They can, I bet with the DNA, they can figure out all types of different things that they could use in advertising, to advertise to you. Not to mention the fact that, if you ever decide to commit a crime or do something that's, not approved by the thought police, that you can actually be tracked down through these broad dragnet surveillance that just encompass every single bit of data that goes over the internet. And not to mention the fact that you have it connected to YouTube, which is in my opinion, I'm pretty sure it is, the largest digital video platform in the world. And basically it's become a public square where we can all come, we can talk, we can share freely in these ideas. A lot of people can earn a living doing this, and it's just as professional as you would go into a newsroom, except without all the hierarchy and without globalists at the top, the corporate overlords telling you what you can and can't say. The freedom of speech part is that you can come on YouTube and say whatever you want. There's people who have this idea and people who have that idea and people who have questions and they have thoughtful dialogue. Now there's a lot of bad, nonsense out there, but it's up to us to filter through that, not for others to tell us how to filter through that. So that just was very interesting to me. Obviously, you're looking at this going, okay, this looks so bad. Okay. And I don't know what to tell you. That's what that is. Now, the next one here is Sergey Brin. It's responding to his own post here, gives this Quartz article. Now, this article kind of goes through the history of how Google basically got its start from the CIA and the NSA, but it was primarily through grants. So it wasn't like the CIA went in and were like, hey, we need you to make this spy net for us so we can catalog every single search that's ever classified and we can put it into metadata and all that. What it actually went more like, according to this article, was, and Q wants us to read, I'll go back here and it says read between the lines. So we have to read between the lines on this. A lot of this could be a little bit, skewed, but the way the story is written, that they basically got grants and they were coaxed into making these projects, which actually makes sense to me. I mean, think about it. Even if they are, or even if it didn't happen that way and they did just walk up to him and say, hey, we need you to make this spy net, that just makes it even more evil. I mean, that's probably why they had to have the the mission statement for Google at first be "Don't be evil," because they were approached by DARPA and the NSA and the CIA, and they were like, "We need you to be really evil. We need to set up a mass surveillance spy grid that we can use on every citizen in the United States, and we can catalog every single thing they've ever done on the internet forever. We'll give you all the money you need. We'll give you all the supplies or funding and all the support and all the legislation, whatever you need. We'll get it done." Just so that, but make sure that you make this so that it's like a mass surveillance state, something along the lines of. I would imagine that meeting. They probably handed them, if it went this way, they probably handed them the book 1984 by George Orwell, and were like, "Read this. We want something similar to that, but much more evil." And they were like, "Oh man, well, we'll take the money and we'll create it, but we'll try not to be evil." But here's a part from the article I thought stood out to me. It's talking about the significance of the seeded money that they got from these grants that they received, Sergey Brin and Larry Page specifically. And it says, the CIA and the NSA funded an unclassified compartmentalized program designed from its inception to spur the development of something that looks almost exactly like Google. Well, I'll read the whole statement. It says, to understand the significance, you have to understand what the intelligence community was trying to achieve as it seeded grants to the best computer science minds in academia. The CIA and the NSA funded an unclassified compartmentalized program designed from its inception to spur the development of something that looks almost exactly like Google. Brin's breakthrough research on page ranking by tracking user queries and linking them to many searches conducted, essentially identifying birds of a feather, was largely the aim of the intelligence community's MDDS program, and Google succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. So, I mean, Google succeeded because they made sure it succeeded, and they actually started back in. This article talks about the first conference that they had where they were talking about birds of a feather. So they wanted to identify how people come together on the internet, and they had this theory that groups would form around subjects and topics, and that's exactly what the internet is today. I mean, it's just a literal combination of all different types of information in the world, and how that information gets grouped is basically based off of keywords, and so people go to those keywords, and so they're birds of a feather. That's what it's saying. So that being said, I think that's kind of reading between the lines a little bit to see that it was definitely something that was started through DARPA, through the CIA, through the need to have some sort of mass surveillance, some sort of broad dragnet grid that could be basically used as an information resource to help, who knows what, all types of seedy, nefarious stuff, and probably a lot of good stuff too, I'd imagine. I mean, I'm not discounting the fact that it could be used to find terrorists and to do that kind of stuff, but in the same breath, if it's violating our First Amendment rights, and if it's violating our Fourth Amendment rights, and if it's doing all of that basically unregulated in a dark, off in dark alleys and dark corners of the corporate world, that to me is really shady. And then it asks the question, how involved are the intelligence agencies with these mass companies, right? Great questions to ask, I guess. The next one here, Q is responding to his own post again, saying, how might DARPA, aka Google, play a role in the spy campaign against President Trump? It says, think Gmail drafts, think Eric Schmidt resignation. It will all connect eventually, Q. So we have to go over this one more time, obviously. For those of you who are new to this, this may be something you're picking up on here at the beginning. But Gmail and the Gmail drafts, that all comes down to how they were communicating and how they were communicating with foreign actors. And why is that important? Because you have people inside of our own government who are being accused and alleged to have actually sold secrets to foreign entities to plot all the from that to all the way up to plotting to stage false flag attacks against our own country, allegedly through these Gmail drafts. And if that's true, I mean, I think as American citizens and citizens of the world, we should want to know that. I mean, for me as an American citizen, or whatever country you're from, I'm sure you're thinking to yourself, if you're a logical, rational-minded person, as most people are that come here, I mean, the vast majority, of course, you have to be thinking to yourself, how in the world has this gone on for so long and gotten so bad, where they're able to set up these Gmail servers, for instance, Eric Schmidt went over to North Korea, and it's been alleged through these that there was some sort of Google network set up there. And was that Google network used to receive and then transfer information to other countries and other actors in order to sell influence, to sell power, to sell access, whatever it is, to undermine our defense, to undermine our military, to look at what happened. I mean, Q's even told us it's not a coincidence that helicopters have been dropping out of the sky. Our military was set up to fail, allegedly by previous administrations, at the behest of a broad conspiracy that involved dozens of high-ranking officials in our own government and other governments across the world. So just remember that when you're actually like digesting all of this. And Eric Schmidt resigned. Yes, he did resign after the executive order was signed that would say, like we talked about before, that would force people who are heads of companies, to relinquish their assets, and they could be held liable for things that they're in control of if they were using them for nefarious purposes, so on and so forth. So that to me is where we're at, and I just can't even tell you how much it sickens me to think about. But at the same time, I'm hopeful that we're getting this information out, and that's what's more important than anything. Now the next one here is this YouTube video. This was the song you heard at the beginning of this video. Now I'm not going to play it again. If you want to hear the full version, you can look up the song Magic Sword, and it's the song In the Face of Evil. Now what people at Anon pointed out is there's the all-seeing eye and the pyramid, and the swords looks like it's kind of on fire, and yeah, so it's a interesting song. But Q says played by Operation Specialists pre-event last night. Q, whoa, all right, so what event is Q talking about? Well, you could actually take this probably 100 different ways, because it's hard to really know, because Q's not telling us. But the next one makes it a little more clear. It's this picture, or an Anon says, why did I get extreme goosebumps while listening to this? And then it shows, Q gives us this picture of a bunch of military helicopters getting ready to take off, it would seem, or having just landed, with a night vision shot. And I'm willing to bet money that this picture is not one that's publicly available on the internet, that this was actually snapped by somebody who was actually there and involved in whatever operation. This could be from the actual operation. Now you're asking yourself, Craig, what operation are you talking about, right? Before we get to that, it's the last post here that we have so far is an Anon saying, y'all notice the triangle and the all-seeing eye in the middle of that sword in the Magic Sword YouTube song, right? So Q just points to that post. Well, what does this song have to do with the special operators or operations that were going on last night? Well, when I looked around the internet to try to find out what happened, last night, anything interesting, this story popped up, and it talks about Syria's war. You have a Damascus airbase getting blown to pieces last night. And what was blown up there? Well, according to the story, what happened was there was a weapons depot at a Syrian airport in Damascus that mysteriously, through some sort of either spontaneous combustion or somebody stuck a fork into a electrical socket, the whole thing just went up and just blew up, and its explosions were all night. It sounded like, I think according to people, it sounded like, it was a military operation going on, or some kind of bombing campaign. But interestingly enough, you can see here that it actually says that this happened last night, and it was just an accident. So nothing to see here, guys. Do not look at this. Do not look at Q's post right here with the helicopters and the song that was played by this Operation Specialist pre-event last night. Don't look at any of that, because there's nothing to see here whatsoever. It's not like, and I'm only talking about what it could not be, and it's not like Iran brought a special shipment of weapons to Syria to be used against U.S. soldiers fighting in the area, and we may have, taken that out. That definitely didn't happen. Nothing to see here. You guys just pretend that you never heard that. Obviously, I'm joking. That's sarcasm. So that's the implication has been basically that some sort of Iranian weapons shipment was destroyed last night, and that was a part of an operation against Iran, which is something that's very important, because Iran is one of the most destabilizing factors in the Middle East. Given their basic endorsement or basic support for terrorist organizations and terrorist groups that are not friendly to the United States. So that is definitely a part of the ongoing battle there. And is it just me, or is it always a coincidence when you look right after that, you hear Erdogan, this thug dictator from Turkey, talking about how he calls us the U.S. wild wolves, vows to abandon the dollar and trade. Go ahead and abandon the dollar. Actually, see how that helps you as an individual in your country, because I'm not saying that, you should or you shouldn't, but let's just be quite honest. I don't think it would end up too well for you. I've heard of a few other countries that dropped the dollar, and we saw what happened to them. And I'm not listen, I'm not a war hawk. I'm not in favor of, going in there and starting a new war. But I think economically speaking, we can crush Turkey tomorrow. So that's what I mean. I don't mean it in the sense of like, let's go start another war in the Middle East. I mean, we can crush them economically. Just saying. So Erdogan, you better just keep your thug dictatorial tactics to yourself over there. Like this scummy guy comes over to the United States and has his thugs go beat up American citizens. That to me was the lowest of the low. He should be ashamed of himself, but then you would have to have shame to be ashamed of yourself, and I don't think he has that. He's shameless. So that is basically where we will wrap it up. I hope that all of that information helped you guys out. I'm just trying to give you guys a starting point. Obviously, more research is needed, and I want you all to do your own research and to use your own logical thinking and really follow it as best you can, because this is the story just keeps getting crazier and crazier. So thank you all for watching, and if you want to help out the channel, please come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications. Another way is to share these videos, spread this one especially if you want to get people aware of what QAnon is, and bring them in so they can kind of understand how to do the research, all that. That's really cool. Also, leave your thoughts, theories, and insights in the comments so that you can basically get involved with the discussion, because like I say, we try to have our own QAnon research board. We don't just talk about the Q posts, we talk about everything in between. There's a lot of great people down there. So even if you cannot comment, please scroll down and read through the comments, because you're going to learn something you didn't know previous to starting this episode. Now, another way you can help out is to come over here and find me on Twitter at Justin_Form. Great thing about Twitter is that all my articles from the website justinformednews.com will be posted there, but also all my videos automatically get posted here from YouTube, and you get to read my great, fascinating, witty, clever tweets. So if you want to get involved with that, come over here and smash this follow button. Give me a like, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. Also, please come over here and check out justinformednews.com. It's my new website. It definitely goes right in line with this channel, and it's just another source for information where I'll be contributing articles, and I'm trying to get it going. This is kind of the beta version. We're doing a lot of testing here and trying to get it all functioning correctly. And I thank you guys for your support and checking it out. And come read this latest article that talks about Hillary Clinton and Saudi Arabia and all this crazy stuff. And I just wrote this great little piece about Paul's proclamation, which is always good to have some uplifting pieces. And I'll try to do at least once a week a piece that's just about faith and how God is important, because God is the most important thing. It's why we're here. Now, if you want to help out and contribute financially, the best way to do is to come over here to Patreon, patreon.com. You can search Just Informed Talk, or you can go to patreon.com/Just Informed Talk. And when you come here to the landing page, you click this button to become a patron. All you have to do is click this button, make a monthly donation. Helps the channel out big time. It's what keeps me going 24/7, 365, no matter what YouTube demonetizes. I know I can rely on you guys to come here and support me, and I thank you so much for that support. Also, another way, if you don't want to do the monthly donation, I totally understand. That's why I made this GoFundMe page. It's gofundme.com/justinformed, or /just-informed, excuse me. It's gofundme.com/just-informed. And you can click this button. You can make a one-time donation, and you can make an anonymous donation. So you can make a one-time anonymous donation here, but it really helps me out, and I'm so thankful to everybody who comes and supports the channel. So before we go, I want to talk about, obviously, the most important thing, what I end each one of my episodes with, is a piece of scripture. And this scripture is telling us how to live a good life, in my opinion. When I read it today, as I was kind of preparing for the episode, it was so good. I was like, I have to share this with everyone, because I couldn't say this better. So instead of me yammering, I'm just going to share this with you because these words are so self-evident and true. But it's the reading is from Ephesians chapter 4, verses 25 and through chapter 5, verse 2. So it says, "So then, putting away falsehood, let all of us speak the truth to our neighbors, for we are members of one another. Be angry, but do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger, and do not make room for the devil. Thieves must give up stealing, rather let them labor and work honestly with their own hands, so as to have something to share with the needy. Let no evil talk come out of your mouths, but only what is useful for building up as there is need, so that your words may give grace to those who hear. And do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, with which you were marked with a seal for the day of redemption. Put away from you all bitterness and wrath and anger and wrangling and slander, together with all malice. And be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ has forgiven you. Therefore, be imitators of God as beloved children and live in love, as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us, a fragrant offering and a sacrifice to God." So, again, I can't say it any better because that's what I believe. I mean, and it's, trust me, I don't do this. I'm not perfect. I'm not, of course, you guys hear me on here. I get a little angry, I get a little upset, but I always have God. I always look to God. I always try to understand why I'm angry. And I think about the teachings of our Lord. I think about the teachings of Jesus, and I think about what we're supposed to do as Christians. And it's hard. I think one of the hardest things about being a Christian for me personally is just always doing the best in giving back. Because, I mean, I do my best and I'm not perfect, but sometimes I think, can I do more? Can I be a better Christian? Can I go volunteer more hours? Can I go help with things better, more? And the answer is always yes. We can always get better. And that's what I think this is saying, is that you can work hard, but if you're doing the wrong things, you're making room in your heart for the devil. And it says, do not make room in your heart for the devil, or do not make room for the devil. And it talks about the redemption, because it even says there, it says, thieves must give up stealing. Rather, let them labor and work honestly with their own hands. Meaning, even if you're not doing what's right all the time, even if you're not perfect, which all of us basically are, imperfect, that you have an opportunity to change. God gives you that opportunity to change. Christ has already died on the cross for your sins to give you that. He sealed your day of redemption. You've been given that. What is not given is each day. Each day is not given. That's why each day must be cherished and must be lived to the fullest as the best Christian that you can be. So when I think about this in this verse, the only thing that comes to mind is my own imperfection. How can I get better? And how can I do things to be better for God? So that's my take on it. And I hope you guys kind of take something, whatever you can out of that, because it's up to us to kind of look to God in every day, in every situation, everything, so that we may become better for God and for our loved ones, family, and the whole world, which is why I'm here. And I put my heart on the line every day, telling you guys about my faith, so that hopefully it renews faith in your own heart. So I want to say thank you all for watching. I hope that helps big time. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, now's a great time to do it. Come here, click the big red subscribe button. Don't forget to check out justinformednews.com. It's a great website. I know you guys will love it. But that's going to be it from me. Thank you for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed, and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.